Welcome to Spiritual and Sassy, the podcast where we bleed deep soul wisdom with authentic confidence.
We're your host,
Tressa
and Myra, and together we'll explore the mystical side of life, challenge societal norms and programming, and embrace our inner power.
Whether you're on a spiritual journey or just love a little sass, this space is for you.
Let's dive in and light up the world with a little more love.
Hi.
Hello.
How are those electrolytes?
They're so good. Actually, shout out. You know, there's a lot of different electrolytes nowadays, and now there's like cleaner versions and happier versions, and you know, they slap that shit on everything, right? Anywho, I'm still a Liquid IV fan. You know, I really like it, and they make a sugar-free one, so it's less, you know, like you're drinking like a packet of, you know, Kool-Aid or whatever.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, pretty much. But this one's like sherbet flavored, but it doesn't really taste like sherbet to me, but it's probably one of the best flavors I've ever had. And the only reason I know about this flavor is because Walmart Pharmacy, they like made some kind of goodie bag. And yeah, Blake went and got Nola's inhaler, and she loves free shit. I blame that on my mom. And she's like, oh, you know, so she brought it home. Okay. This is actually really funny. So Blake's like, oh, that's mine. I want that one. And then they had like colostrum, and there's like a whole lot of benefits around colostrum. I'm not going to get into that. People can look it up if you want to. And so they had a little packet of that. So I'm like, oh, I want that one because I know exactly what that is. And Magnolia like mistakenly thought that she was picking a yummy flavor. Okay. So she added it to her water bottle, and she's like, you know, like freaking out. It was emergency. I'm so hard. And I said, honestly, you probably need it, but but you just, you know, anyways, that was her experience with it. So, but they had the sample flavor. Blake did not actually take it. I did because he just forgets about it, and it sat around for like 5 days. And I'm like, forget it, bro. I'm taking it. Like, I actually want it. It's just sitting here collecting dust. He didn't even know where it was. So it's
it's fun when you get those like little gifts and then you find something you like out of them.
Yeah, so she was influenced by the free gift, and she was so excited about it, guys. Like, she was so happy. So thanks, Walmart Pharmacy, for
Thanks,
my
Walmart.
And we appreciate it.
They'll do that when I do grocery pickup. They'll put a little goodie bag in there with free samples. Yeah,
and we do pick up all the time, and so maybe it even came. I don't know. Like, we got some. Like, I don't know. We found them. She was so excited. So heck, it might have been through the pickup. I don't know.
But, something from Walmart anyway. Yeah.
So thanks.
I was happy. It's chilly here today, rainy, and I came home and Troy had made coffee, so I have coffee. I'm like, ooh, it sounds perfect.
I'm very jealous. I wanted coffee. I almost made coffee, but I've mixed a lot of things today. I've had several cups of coffee, potentially too much Coke Zero. So I'm like, maybe I should drink electrolytes, you know?
I didn't know you drank Coke Zero.
They call it the fridge cigarette, and boy, do I get it. I love Coke Zero. Yeah, I love it. It's like, ooh, want to take the edge off?
Actually, it's like your
really. There's like a meme, and it's called the fridge cigarette. Yeah, like let me be real. I should not probably drink that much Coke Zero, but I try my best. I like to make Blake drink them, and then I'll like sip them while he drinks them, which I probably shouldn't even share drinks either, but whatever. We share all sorts of things, right? So kind of like we'll sneak a little. Yeah, who cares? Yeah. So I like sneak a sip, whatever. And it keeps me from like, because I just want to taste. I used to, when I was younger and I didn't know a lot about health and wonderful things like that, I drank way too much soda, but I drank a soda called Sundrop, which is like I don't know, maybe Spotify won't ban me for saying this, but like the white powder of sodas.
I've never heard of this. It must be a Southern thing.
Wink. It is.
Things that
it's Mountain Dew. Oh yeah, it's Mountain Dew. Oh my Lord, like hit it to the vein. Okay.
Yeah.
Highly addictive. Chef's kiss. A hot day out working in the sun in the factory. Come crack one of them open. Delicious. And I drink the real thing. I'm like, I don't drink real soda anymore. I drink diet. Well, but I've never been a big diet drinker. But there is something about the zeros. Yes.
I still
Like
drink
even like
Diet
a
Coke. I'm gonna have to
I
try the Coke
wish.
Zero. Yeah.
I love the zeros. Oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
love them so much. And I even the Dr. Pepper Zero. And I'm a Diet
Mm.
Dr. Pepper girl. Like I actually think Diet Dr. Pepper tastes better than real Dr. Pepper.
Mhm.
But the Zero, I don't know what it is. And they're probably killing me.
Yeah, they got
But I
something in there.
try. They do. And I try not to drink a ton, but today's one of those days. Like
Yeah.
I honestly, and like I said, I'm breaking out a little bit, and I know it's because I've been eating more sugar than normal. And so this weekend, I think, and I've also been eating like baby shrimp from a fish camp. So I don't know if I'm 90. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. But, hey, so whatever. So I feel like I've eaten a weird combo of things that I haven't eaten
It
in a
sounds
long
like it a little bit.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I don't know, but we had just gotten over a sickness, like I said on the last
Oh
podcast.
yeah. Yeah.
If people listen to this in chronological order, we were sick. And so sometimes, I don't know if you ever do that when after you get over a sickness, you just kind of eat weird ass shit. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
it is. So I've been eating not my normal, because we've been eating pretty clean and we try to really put in nutritious things into our bodies and cook and yeehaw, whatever. And yeah, so I've been eating Chips Ahoy and drinking Coke Zeros and eating baby shrimp from the fish camp.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Like sometimes your body might need certain things to replenish, you know.
Yeah.
So
So
just
whatever.
trust it.
I'll be
Yeah,
fine.
whatever. Yeah,
It's not like a
you'll be fine.
long-term
We know you're
sit.
not pregnant because
Yeah.
that's a weird combo.
No, that ain't happening. No, and I just ended it. So I know that that's not it. And then Blake went out of town. So I think I decided today was a little more of like a stress thing. And I haven't
Yeah.
done that in a long time either, but
Yeah.
it'll be okay. I'm giving
Oh
myself
yeah.
grace. It's not a big deal. It's life.
Yeah. You deserve that every once in a while.
Yeah. So
Yeah. That's me with
anyways,
my Diet Cokes. I don't drink them very often, but I do have some, one or two a week sometimes. Not every
yeah,
day. I used to drink it all day long.
that's how I feel this weekend. I've taken it. I'm puffy. Like I can feel it, right? Like I feel it in my body. And it's not even because this is not what the episode's about, folks, and I'll shut up. But, I used to punish myself around food. And I've talked about it before, where it's like, especially when I lost weight the first time, and then if I ever drank anything or ate anything that wasn't quote unquote clean or nutritious or, whatever, I would go and run or go do Zumba or go walk or go whatever. I would go try to burn it off to cancel it out.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that way anymore. That's not it anymore. So I'm not mad at it, but I can totally tell. Like I said, I'm breaking out a little bit. My face feels a little more swollen than normal. I don't feel good. So it just tells me hey, your body don't need this all the time, which is okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Yeah.
upset about it.
That's good. That's improvement,
Yeah.
right? We're not freaking out
Yeah.
over it. Yeah. So that's great.
No, not in this moment in time. No,
Yeah.
we are okay. We're doing great.
Yeah. Well, or should we get into our topic? We're done talking about
Yeah.
Diet Coke,
Yeah, sorry, folks.
cookies, Coke Zero. Oh, it was fun though. Yeah. And add in the shrimp.
So,
Well, do you want to kick us off today or do you want me to?
you go ahead. Yeah, you go
Okay.
ahead and then I'll add in what I got. But it's just been the topic that we're going to talk about. And like I said, Tress will take it away. But just it's been everywhere. It's all over. It's entered both of our lives and in our sphere and a lot of people's lives right now. So we felt like it was a really important topic to talk about today.
Yeah. So, I think we were talking about, I text Myra. There was a young boy in the area that I live in that committed suicide. I know you're supposed to say die by suicide. I don't know if the words matter. It's the action that matters, and it's the reason that things continue to happen like this. 12 years old, and it's interesting because I believe, I live in Wyoming, and the suicide rate in Wyoming in general per capita is usually the highest in the United States. Sometimes we get second after Alaska, but for the most part, we're right in that range. And what I found interesting is you see these stories more and more and more, and they're younger and younger and younger. And so it just made me start thinking like people have to start talking about this, but getting to the root issues of what can change this type of behavior. So often like Myra and I, several years ago, 5, 6 years ago, would go to a conference here that the Wyoming Business Alliance did called the Governor's Business Forum. And for 2 years in a row, one of their topics was around the suicide epidemic. And there was a lot of conversation had about suicide prevention. But what I never felt like people got to was, what does that really mean? Yes, if you're in a crisis moment, there are hotlines you can call. But what do you do to not get to the crisis moment? What do you have to have that those moments don't even show up for you? And that's the thing that I never hear anybody talk about. And I fully know and believe in my heart, the only way to change that is to start to love yourself. That's it. You have to have self-love. And, I had my father commit suicide when I was 14 years old. He was 32 years old. My mother to this day has she says some pretty negative things around herself. So, trust me when I say I know this topic, I come by it honestly. Like I've lived it, and I myself, on my own journey had, a real struggle in my late 30s, early 40s because of all the suppression and lack of self-love. And when I started to really work with some healers and different people who got me into metaphysical stuff and what I do today, it became really obvious that I had zero self-love. But I'd never been modeled that. I'd never been in environments where that existed. And so digging out of that space was important for me. And even with all the work I've done, over a decade of trying to have a high self-awareness, really loving myself, understanding who I am, because of those ancestral energies, I have to be highly aware, So I think about not blaming anyone, because this is just a topic of conversation that you have to have. So no blame on anybody. People are doing the best they can with what they have. But if you can't start to acknowledge where you're at, you have no capability of changing. And, Myra and I were talking a little bit about this before we got on the podcast. And I know we've talked about this as a parent, your energy around your children is the most important thing, not what you say. They feel what you feel. They feel what you feel about yourself. They are going to respond to those things, not the words you say. The words you say are like 7 to 5%, I think, is around what those actually mean. Everything else is carried through your energy. And so the best thing somebody can do for themselves is start to look inward and start to say, do I actually have self-love? Do I have self-worth? And if no, then that's okay. That at least gives me a starting point. What do I need to start to do to work on those things? What do I need to start to do to learn to be able to express myself? What do I need to do to not value others' opinions so much? We kind of talked about this in last week's episode that'll be coming out in a couple of days, around, what ingredients are you putting into your frequency, right? And are you giving your power away to other people to dictate how you feel about yourself? And I just think everyone needs to look at it. But, as people are raising children, really fostering those environments where you're allowing your child to feel their individuality, to feel safe and secure in that space. And that's a challenging thing, I'm sure, for parents. You can speak more to this than me, right? Because you're parenting now. But like letting them express and be safe in who they are, but still teaching them, how to function in life, how to deal with other people, because those things aren't going to just stop either. And bullying, I have no idea if this child was bullied. I have no clue. I'm not suggesting he was. I don't know anything about that. But, you were sharing what a little girl had said to Nola a few weeks ago. I don't remember if you shared it just with me personally or we talked about it on the podcast, but these are 6-year-old kids, for fuck's sake, saying these horrible things as humans. Like, oh yeah, have we forgotten that we're human beings with hearts and spirits and souls, and just the level of, it's just, I want to use the word evilness. It's just pure meanness that people can express to somebody else. It's detrimental.
Yeah, 100% to all of that. And I think like what's so crazy to me, so Magnolia in school, she was having not a great start to first grade, with some personal things and then some dynamics and personalities and teachers and all that fun jazz, right? And so that's life. And I want her to know that too, but I did decide to get the school counselor involved just because I want, one, I know the school counselor personally. I actually went to college with her, which is really cool. And I trust her. And she was actually recommended to me by several people. So I felt like, okay, if I have this many people saying this, then, we go inward first, but then, there are resources outside. And this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, this is in alignment with me. And so I feel like this is what we should do. She met with the counselor and just to have some check-ins, like, how are you feeling? How are things going? All those fun, wonderful things, right? Just to make sure everybody's kosher. Well, one of the things that the counselor had asked for Magnolia to do, was to befriend a new student. And the gal she'd moved to the school, she'd moved from a new area. And the school counselor told Magnolia, she said, hey, I think this would be a great fit. You're in the same classroom together. Because ultimately, to create a safe environment in school, Magnolia needs to make connections with students, with teachers, with staff, there needs to be connections happening, and there weren't right off the bat, right? We weren't forming the safe environment for her to feel comfortable and to be truly herself and to feel good at school. So the school counselor's like, hey, you should be this gal's friend, because she knew Magnolia moved from Wyoming, and so that's a big move to go. And she did leave behind friends that she had made. She was 5 when she moved. So, she knew those people and those relationships, and it's a big jump. And so Magnolia was just doing that. She was trying to be this girl's friend. And for days and days and days, something new would happen. Like the girl would say, I don't like you. And Magnolia would try to be your friend. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to be your friend. She's like, well, I want to be kind. I want to help her. I want to do these things for her. Then the next day, the girl would like crumple Magnolia's work, like just grab it and just crumple it. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, okay, well, hey, maybe you shouldn't sit with her. Like this doesn't sound great. Well, then, it just kept escalating. Well, I guess it came to some point where there was physical contact from that student to Magnolia. And in that moment, the student called her fat, ugly, and dumb. And Magnolia is none of those things. And several of those things, are like really not it, and I'm like, oh no, because I don't want this to form. I don't want these things to stick. I don't want this. There's a couple things I don't want to stick. I don't want her trying to show kindness to somebody to feel like, hey, I shouldn't be kind. Like, what the heck? Like, I'm trying to be nice to this person and they're just being mean. They're just, and, hurt people. We say, you've trusted, you say a lot.
Hurt people.
People, yeah. And she's hearing this stuff probably at home, and she don't know what words to use because first off, Magnolia is like the triple opposite of the word fat. Like there is no fat on this child's body. And so as a person, when I was her age, I was larger. I was a heavier student, especially and I actually just talked about this last night with my friend, and I'll get to that in a second. But with this current situation, so Magnolia is like, well, what do I do? And I'm like, maybe this friendship isn't meant to be. Be nice. You can still be kind, but we don't need to interact with the student. And so there have been some separation, but it was just like, oh my gosh, so that happened. And then like today, some student pushed Magnolia and that same girl came back up to her and said, you deserved it. I'm like, what the? So there are some intense things happening in the 6-year-old sphere, and I'm well aware of that. But it stinks when your child is at the receiving end of the stick. But I'm grateful that my child, maybe I shouldn't say I'm grateful that she's going through this, but there's a lesson to be learned. But I'm grateful because I know at home she's in a whole different environment. My child feels loved and safe and supported at home. We, like Tressa said, you can say all the things you want, but it's the energy in the home. And, I've worked really hard on self-love for me. And, Blake has worked on that for himself too. And these are things that we've called out and, we, like you say, it's a journey. I didn't just arrive at self-love. Like I've really had to work towards these things. And, I do believe in affirmations, especially for children. And like I've started to write affirmations mirror. So every morning she has them across the mirror and like it's so cute. We were looking at different like I am statements and she picked I am rich. So I'm like, yes, girl, let's go girl. So that one's on the mirror. So she's looking She's rich. My 6-year-old's manifesting tons of prosperity in her life. But, going back to my own personal self, when I was younger, I was just talking to this, like I said, to my friend. I felt like I hated myself from a really young age. And, I never had, like you said, I've never had parents to say, I hate you and I think you're fat and I think you're ugly
No.
and I think you're weird. No one ever talked to me like that. My parents adored me. I know they love me. But there was not a lot of self-love and energy in my home. My brothers went through massive weight transformation, so that energy was circulating in the home. My mom's been on diet since she was 13 years old. Her father was verbally abusive, and so he said a lot of things to her and nitpicked her whole life, from the time that she was really little to even into her adulthood. And he did the same for my nanny, which is my grandmother, so my mom's mom. And she stayed in that environment. And so she's one of the strongest, most beautiful, incredible women I've ever known. And as she gets older, she talks more and more about it and the things that she endured during that time and why she chose to stay in that relationship. And what that did is just generational self-hate, basically. She didn't love her. He didn't love himself, first off, my
Right.
grandfather. Absolutely not even remotely close to it. Then my nanny, even though I believe she's a confident woman, there's deep parts of her and her core that she questioned. And I'm sure that now I feel like she's different because she's 90 almost. I mean, she's about to be 90. But, those things are still there. And that was passed down to my mom, and that energy and that ancestral line, my brothers, and I don't know. I feel like my dad loved himself, but I don't know if he did 100%. I mean, it's a journey, right? And so I think he just was content, but content isn't also the best energy either. Like there's a lot of repression because he converted to Mormonism. And so there's a lot of the life that he let go or he was hiding in shame from, so there was a lot of shame and a lot of worthiness and that energy just spiraling in my environment. And so, like I said, I remember at a really, really young age not loving myself. And it started with even just the clothes that I owned. And, I was telling my friend, I'm like, I can remember, I have a vivid memory. I was at Skateland, USA, and I remember looking around the roller rink, and this had to be probably about second grade, because at this time, that friend was in school with me still, and she left the school and went somewhere else. So she remembered being at the same party. Like but she remembers it differently. But I remember looking at the girls' clothes. I remember looking at what they were wearing, how they were dressed, their personalities. And I remember looking at myself, and I remember being so ashamed of my clothes. I remember I hated it. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to wear what I had on. And not that I was always cared for. I always had items, like I didn't go without. I never went without. I was honestly spoiled, truly, for my economic status, but my mom's style, she was an older parent, so she was dressing me like probably how she was dressing my brothers in the 90s, so it was, and I, at this time, when I was in school at that age in second grade, that was like, I was in first grade in 2001, so during 9/11. So it was about 2002, right? So early 2000s, for my millennial folks out there listening to the podcast, like Limited 2 and Aeropostale and all that shit, right? And everybody's rocking this stuff. I did not. I wasn't doing that because my mom was a very frugal shopper, and her style didn't really mix into that either. She's like 70 now, folks, and my friends' parents were in their 30s. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
A different world. And I know that now as an adult, but at the time, it really hit me. And, my friend said to me, she said, I do not remember you dressing any different than any of us. And she's like, I remember your outfit. She actually remembered 2 of my outfits. And she's like, and I remember you at that age in these outfits, and you were so cute. And she's like, I love what you wore. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I understand. And I told her, I said, I don't even know if it was really my clothes, if it was my body. And there was so much hate towards the body in my home and the way the body looked and the way the body felt. And those seeds had been completely planted. And so I already didn't like myself, and it was starting. And, and I even look back at pictures, and I wasn't even chunky then, you know, like it did come. Oh, it did, but it wasn't like what I thought, you know, and and I say this too because about that age, you know, my daughter's in first grade. The other day I saw her running through the park and she's in her cute little bike shorts and like her beautiful long legs. So she's going to be like 6 foot tall, but she has my exact leg shape, Tressa. She has my legs. And I started looking at her legs and I'm like, they're so beautiful. And I cried. I started crying because I'm like, I've never looked at my own body and like that and been like, wow, my legs are beautiful. And it really just sent me like, and it was just this weekend, you know, I really thought about it. I'm like, wow. So I've been sending love to my legs this week, which is kind of random, but you know, in that moment, I looked at my body. That literally is my body, just a little longer. Because I'm like, damn, maybe if I was a little longer, I wouldn't have hated him so much, you know. Like, and I'm not short, you know. But she was. It's my body, Tressa. It's my. I just was like, oh my gosh. And you know, she's got Blake's face, but it's totally my legs and my arms and my hands and like. And as she gets older, I used to think she had Blake's. Cool. No way, man. And we walk the same and our legs go, I mean, it's like to the T. And it made me really think about like how could I have ever said what I said about myself all that time, all those years when I see this beautiful human running around, you know, but to, you know, tie it all together too is like, I really had to work. And like I said, there's moments like I had that moment where I'm like, man, I never really, my legs, you know, and I'm like, that's it. Was a sign to me that I need, or, you know, we say shadow work or whatever, a trigger, or something resurfaced that, okay, I need to really work on my love for my legs. Yeah. You know, I don't hate my tummy. I love my tummy. I'm loving my face. You know, I'm loving aging. I'm not upset at being 30 like I thought I would, you know, like we're jiving. And then it's like my legs, you know, like how do I love my legs? And yeah, I talked to Magnolia about it and I really, really shift. I really think about how do I feel about myself in the mornings when I'm getting ready or when I'm putting clothes on, because I know the environment that I grew up in and they still talk the same. You know, we can't get on a phone call without somebody bringing up something negative, you know, or about body weight or about money or finances or life or you name it. And even today, tying back into what you're saying too, with what are we pouring into if we're the plant, how are we watering our plant? What ingredients are we putting in? I took a phone call today and right off the bat, I could feel my body, my nervous system. I could feel it, you know, like I felt myself really uncomfortable and tense. And I had to do some cord cutting because I didn't want to take on those contracts. I didn't want to take in that energy because I could feel that the questions I was being asked the intention wasn't there. It was truly a negative energy. It wasn't for my good. It wasn't, I could just feel it, but they have a lot of self-hate for themselves too, you know? So I know where this is coming from and how they don't know how to talk about anything unless it's prodding or prying or about themselves or about myself or, you know, so it's all over and around me. And it's something that I have to be very conscious of and how I continue to put this energy out for my children.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's funny. I want to touch on the leg thing. That's one of the things that I used to hate about my body. I'm 5'2". On a good day, probably really 5'1" if I'm being honest. But so I got short little legs. They're big, like they're big legs. And there were times in like, you know, in the last it's probably been quite a while, but I wouldn't even wear shorts because I hated my legs. And it's really, when I started to do the work, I started to really do mirror work. One of my coaches encouraged me to do mirror work naked and just kind of look at parts of my body that I truly could say I loved. I ultimately started to really love my legs. And now I wear shorts all the time. Like they're powerful. They are stocky. They are different. They're not long and lanky. They're never going to be long and lanky, but they have a beauty to them that's unique to them, you know? So I get that. It is definitely something to be aware of. You know, I think there's with Nola right now and with everybody, like you're trying to teach her kindness, but also there's boundaries. Like boundaries of kindness to herself, meaning that, and I would really do this if I was you sitting in your shoes, even giving her this language to start to use that is not reactive and not bad. So she starts to understand how to set up her own boundaries. So this little girl tells her, you deserve that. I would encourage Nola to go over to her and say, I don't allow people to talk to me that way.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask you to not say those things to me again. Like calmly,
Mhm.
right? Not saying
Yeah.
you need to not do this. Statements do not allow people to talk to me that way. You don't get to say those things to me. And you should start
Yeah.
to give her the dialogue now, because that's setting up those boundaries. Just like this conversation you had today, were there opportunities, and this is hard because this is where we can make people feel really uncomfortable. And this is where it gets hard for us because we love them. We want to have dialogue.
Oh,
But if
yeah.
they start to go down these rabbit holes, it's up to us to set up those boundaries to protect our own well-being, saying, you know, I don't enter into dialogue around this. You know, this isn't a conversation I'm comfortable having. You know, can we talk about something else? Or
Yeah.
if you need to have this conversation, I may not be the person to have it with. And these are the kind of things, saying that in a responsive way. You're not reactive. You're not yelling at them. You're not passive. You're not going into letting the energy exchange happen. And those are difficult things. I still work on that all the time myself, right? But
Yeah.
the more people can start to, I think the reason I wanted to do this podcast so badly is without people becoming self-aware. If you have children, and you truly, every parent I ever work with, they come in and I'm working with them and they say things to me like, I love my child more than anything. Well, the fuck you do, because you don't love yourself. So you're lying to yourself, first of all, about that. So fuck off. But without you acknowledging, no, I'm serious. Like, quit bullshitting yourself. Like, quit.
Yeah.
It's not true. So you've got to at least start to acknowledge things to change them. And the collective energy has to start to have these hard conversations with themselves and with each other, or these kind of things will not stop. They will become more and more and more. And you're seeing it more and more and more, right? I don't watch the news, but, you know, I look up, I do have Facebook and Instagram, and I see plenty of shit like this coming up all the time. And you will continue to see more of it until you start to really be honest and do the work, take the action to raise your own energy, to do the work yourself. And then you start to change generational lines forward and backwards, right? You know, you were talking about your family environment. Like, I was never told anything mean. I was never like, hey, you little bitch, or I wasn't treated like that either. But my mother was always on a diet, right? I mean, that was just her world. And she was always teeny weeny. Like, she just, her looks and her appearance was everything to her. And then my dad over here was Frank the Tank, you know, bigger dude, and, you know, all the things. So I had both things, right?
Yeah.
Both things in my environments. Those things matter, right? And I'm kind of like you. I don't really remember at a super young age feeling like I would always feel like I didn't have the right clothes. I do remember as I got older into middle school, you know, and like fashion started to really matter to me. And I even remember like Jabot jeans. Okay, this is a long time ago, you guys. I'm totally aging myself. Jabot jeans, $40 back then. That was a lot of money. And my mom told me, I will pay $20. You have to come up with the other 20. And boy, did I work my ass off to get that 20 bucks. Because I wanted the external feeling to change something inside of me. You know, that's what you're seeking when you do those things. Of course, I didn't get that then, but, you know, those Jabot jeans meant the world to me.
No, yeah, I get it. Well, that's what my friend said. She's like, well, I remember in middle school and high school, like, you dress great. And I said, hell yeah, because I started earning my own money. Like, it meant more to me to look good. I didn't do the inner work. And, you know, and it's taken me, God, till like last year, you know what I mean? Like 6 months ago or whatever, you know, to like really relinquish that. You know, there's a lot of reasons that I buy clothes, or at the time, or, you know, was buying it, and especially in excess. There's a whole sphere around that, right? Like, but this is one of those things, like, and that's why during my pregnancies, I've mentioned it before, I would go through these massive influxes of shopping and buying clothing and buying items and buying all this shit. And it was because I hated myself so much during pregnancy, and I did not have a ton of self-love. And so I was trying to change the external side of it. And it was something that it's a behavior that I kept reverting to, that I've been doing since I was a child. And so, you know, it's taken me now, and being just completely really aware of it. Why am I even doing these things? And then how can I change that? Like, what can I do to heal myself and start where the root is, and then work through those things. And, you know, I think that it's really interesting because I mentioned to Tressa last or on Friday that I had went to the high school and I did
Oh yeah.
like I was asked last year to do it too. It was like I don't know. I think they wanted me
Is it like a
my
career
friend
fair?
kind of, but like this one
Okay.
it's like honestly, I laugh and I'm dramatic. I'm just going to be authentic. I don't fucking care. It was my TED Talk, especially Friday. I gave a TED Talk, folks. It wasn't no damn like this is my career. I gave a TED Talk, okay? And the first time I did it, it was very TED Talky, but it was more like, and I think I mentioned it like 2 episodes ago, where I talked more about being a first generation college student and more my socioeconomic background. And I really heavily talked about like the big T, the big trauma of my dad passing away. And then it kind of floated. And then it ended at that time with me working at Union. And I had talked about, you know, like what that job meant to me and that career and like that checkbox, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. It was beautiful then. And it was what I needed to say to that group of kids at that time. This time was so much better. Oh my gosh. Like before I went, you know, I was saying my prayers. And I'm like, please let me know what I need to tell this particular group of children. Like I have this one moment to be in this one room with these 11th grade students that I may or may never see again. And, you know, I've been asked to speak for whatever reason. And I believe in my soul that one of my talents and my gifts, and I know that it is my voice, and that I have a gift of storytelling, and I have a gift, like you said, this is why I want to do the podcast. You know, I believe that this is my gift. I've always felt that. I didn't have a word or like a reasoning behind it. You know, that was something I told myself when my dad passed away. Like, I'm meant to do this so I can help, you know, whatever. I didn't know how to like
Yeah.
frame it, right? You know, anywho, so I went to talk to these kids, and you know, I did mention, like, you know, because I wanted them to know I'm from the area, because this is, you know, there's pockets of different socioeconomic statuses, and this is an early college group, so you've got mixes of kids. You've got kids where they're doing this because this is the only college they're going to get. They'll graduate with an associate's degree, which is awesome, and so their parents are trying to set them up in that way. And then you got the kids who like their parents don't, it's kind of, they treat it like private school kind of. You know, so you've got mixes of children. And, you know, I did hit on some things, but I really was very authentic in what I said. And spoke from the heart, and I mostly talked to the children about identity, you know, and I talked to them about identity. I talked to them about self-worth. I talked to them about being authentic. I talked to them about how there's no one else in this world who is you. And we live in a world of a curated life where there are so many personalities and so many energies that we can take on, but there is nothing more special, and there will never be anything as good as you being yourself. And there's no one as valuable as you are. And so like those were the things that I felt really compelled to tell this group. I talked about being present, that like they'll never be in this room again with these same people, you know, and like really just enjoy it. One of the things that I really talked about too was about how, you know, and I used the real terms, like I called them big T's and little T's, and I explained to the children, you know, and I didn't care. I don't give a shit. I mean, the faculty enjoyed it. They were like, they're like, come back, you know, and so they didn't mind. But I talked about like that it's a journey and not a destination. And I really talked so heavily, and I was really raw about like my identity. I said, you know what? Last time I spoke here, I had this whole other job, and then the job freaking went away. And then I came to the career fair while the job was ending, and I felt like a freak. I felt weird. I felt embarrassed. For what reason, you know? And I was telling these kids that like, you're going to have these moments of wondering, what is your value? What is your self-worth? Like, who are you? And that's okay, you know? And you got to anchor yourself. And I talked to the kids about personal core values versus like corporate core values, you know, and like, who are you in your core? And it goes back to that authenticity, like being true to you. None of those external things matter. And, you know, and I felt really compelled to tell the kids that, and that you don't have to punch through life. Like life's not a checklist, you know, like, and that's how I treated a lot of my life. And I know that it was a deflection of how I felt about myself on the inside. If I could accomplish these goals, I mean, it wasn't all of it, but you know, as I become more self-aware, I didn't love Myra as a person. You know, I really struggled with my looks, my weight, my identity, especially through my 20s. And I felt like adding these titles or punching through certain goals or hitting certain check boxes gave me that sense of self-worth. And so I really reiterated that to the kids, like, those are not the things, man. Like, that's not it. And, I felt really like it was really beautiful to see my own growth, and I loved it. And I shared that with Tressa, like, whoa, like Myra a year ago, and it's exactly 1 week apart, exactly 1 year apart, or the same week, 1 year apart.
1 year apart.
Two different people, and it's beautiful to see that. But it was so cool that I had that moment to talk to the youth, these children who are making these big decisions. And the number one thing I told the kids too before I left, I said, listen to your body. Like, your body knows. Your body knows when you're in situations or you're making decisions in life. Like, it's okay to go to a college and it not be what's right for you. If you want to leave and your body's saying leave, then you need to leave. Or whether it's a relationship or friendships or people or places or decisions of marriage, I don't know. It's okay, and I was telling them that. And like, when you are really true and in tune with yourself and living authentically to who you are in your core, and you really love you and you trust, self-love comes when you love yourself, you also trust yourself. And that's when you can really listen to your body and what your instincts are telling you, what your spirit's telling you to do. And so that was how I like really hammered that home to the kids. Like, listen to yourself, trust yourself.
Yeah, I love it. And that's so true. I heard this quote years and years and years ago, and it took me a long time to really understand it. But the quote is, the level of trust that you give to others is the level of trust you have for yourself. And that makes complete sense, because when you're in your authenticity and you know who you are and you're living your truth, you're never afraid of somebody outside of you doing something that could destroy you, because you know it can't happen, because you're living in the full expression of your authenticity. And so, that's beautiful. And I mean, I think it's so cool when you can really start to see like that you've put in the work and see how you're coming out the other side and showing up differently, right? And that's a really cool thing. So I love that. I love the word that you said, curated life. It's interesting. We kind of, this American dream, I'm using quotations. I mean, are we all buying into that? We think we graduate, we're whatever we do in high school, whether you're the basketball player, cheerleader, whatever that is. Then, you graduate, you get an education, you have a career, you have 2.5 kids. That's not necessarily everyone's path. I've worked with a few clients recently, both women who they've had one child, and their children are, their first child's, a little bit older, like in school already. Energetically, it's like they feel the pressure. Do they have to have another child? Is it safe to have an only child? Will the child be okay? And it's all the societal stuff. And I just encourage them, like, for me, I wasn't meant to be a mom in this life, give birth to a child. Do I parent people? Absolutely. I get the opportunity. I get the opportunity to use my maternal instinct all the time. It just wasn't meant for me to birth a child. And I had to really come to terms with that as my journey versus allowing the societal pressure that I had in my 20s and 30s. When are you going to have a baby? I didn't go to a freaking class reunion because I was not going to answer that question to 50 people who had 20,000 children. So I just really, everyone's journey is unique, and trusting that and trusting what serves you. And I truly believe when you're in the right space, because things will happen easily. They'll come to you. It won't be hard. It won't be difficult. The universe is always giving you confirmation, Myra and I talk about this a lot. When we started this podcast together, one of the things I said is I want it to be unfiltered, raw, real. We share very personal stuff, because if you don't, then you keep that in the shame box. I don't want to be in the shame box. There's nothing to have around shame. But, the last month or so, it's been just my guides and just certain things have happened, just really focusing on really speaking my truth even more, my throat chakra. And it was so interesting. I've been really working on that and not holding back, like what we just talked about with, Noah or whoever you talked to on the phone today, not holding back my expression to make somebody else feel something. And I have decks of cards that I pull usually weekly. And yesterday I pulled one of my dragon cards and one of my unicorn cards. Both of them were all around the throat chakra energy. And it was so funny.
Yeah.
It's just confirmation that you're hearing us right. We're here to help you. Your guide, your angels, ETs, fairies, whatever all you believe in. I don't care. It was just like you always get those signs if you're paying attention, and it just keeps you going on the right track. And so we're getting close to the time, but I just want to express that this episode, hopefully I know I'm doing it in a loving energy, and I say some things that are like, fucking be honest, because I really want people to fucking be honest with themselves, because I know there can be no shift without that. There cannot be shift. So I do it out of love because we want to see these things decrease, not increase, right? We want to see people loving themselves and loving each other, because you take away this hurt people when you change yourself, right? You start to shift that. If more of the collective consciousness does that, there won't be these things occurring.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like what you said there too, like just being honest, I love I think I exercise my throat chakra the most in life, but then there's those shadows, right? And what am I repressing? What am I not really saying? And what am I holding back for? But one of the things though too is, and I'm the person where when people want someone to say the things that they need to be said, they're like, oh, Myra will do it. But in my life, I've also been, told like, why are you being mean? Or like, especially when I was younger, people thought that I was being argumentative or combative or whatever. And there might have been truly times where I might have been. I'm not going to deny that. But there are times too where people are so uncomfortable with somebody being honest and saying what really needs to be said, that they just want to push back, like, you're mean, And if you say it with love and the intention's pure and you're really just having the conversation, it's not a bad thing. But I know that those things have shifted me from truly saying sometimes what I want to say or sugarcoating it, I've learned a valuable lesson about sugarcoating and not doing that, because it really only led to more hurt or more pain. Like, it needed to be more direct, and I am truly direct. And so I love what you're saying, because I agree. And I just went through this experience the other day where I said something, and like the first instinct of the individual was to be like, why are you being so mean? Or why are you being so hateful? And I said, I didn't say anything that was mean or hateful. I spoke my truth about something that is true and that it is in the moment here. Why are you uncomfortable with the truth? And so, those are things that I've really worked on, because, I can be very blunt and very direct, but it's the intention of love, and it's the intention of coming from my heart of like, okay, how am I using that information? How are we going to guide this? Like we've talked many times, instead of saying you, it's I, or like bringing it back and really reframing how I'm saying it. Cause I do believe in being true and honest and to the point, or blunt, or saying what people don't want to say. I really believe in that. And that's what makes me, like I get called in, like, go call Myra, she'll say it. But, I've learned how uncomfortable that makes people. And so I love that you are really embodying that too, and just saying what needs to be said. I think that we should all ask ourselves that too, like, why are we uncomfortable with truth? If some of this makes you uncomfortable, why though? And what about it is it bringing up for you? And what maybe do you need to think about or work on or accept? Or what is this showing you if you're uncomfortable with some of the things that people are saying? Or what does it really mean to you? And what's the why behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't happen overnight. This last week, I caught myself, my family is really good at what I call being passive aggressive. So I was saying something to my husband and I was goading him. I mean, I just was. I wasn't saying what I felt directly. Instead, I was doing it in a passive aggressive way. And I was goading him into a conversation, right? And, I recognized it, and I had to really, going back to self-reflection, right? Like, the energy I had was shit. The words I was saying were shit. I mean, it was, you know? So it's not only what you say, it's the energy behind it, right? And I recognized it, and I said, you know what? I own that. I apologize. I was goading you into a reaction, if I'm being honest, right? And I'm sorry. And it took me, one of the things I was really happy about, I never really got angry with myself. I was really proud of myself for recognizing it. I recognized it within a few hours. It didn't take me forever. You know,
Yeah.
but the more that you allow self-awareness, the quicker it comes also, right? And then you can adjust it. When I apologized, I said, one of my things is I don't say an apology unless I have something to be sorry for. And second of all, if I am going to apologize, then I better be ready to change the behavior, because don't apologize if you're just going to keep doing the same thing, you know?
Exactly.
And I really felt like, okay, I recognize this. I'm going to apologize and change the behavior, right? So, yeah, I like what you're saying there. Just paying attention to the actual energy of what you're saying and really meaning it.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way, way high.
And stay sassy.